The first signs of the invasion came through old transistor radios. Static-filled broadcasts about strange lights in the sky quickly evolved into worldwide panic as massive ships descended through Earth's atmosphere. Isabella Martinez, owner of the largest salvage yard in New Mexico, was elbow-deep in an ancient refrigerator compressor when the first transmission cut through her battered radio. "Citizens of Earth, your technological inferiority has been noted. The Zenith Collective claims this world. Surrender your resources or face elimination." The voice sounded like metal grinding against concrete. Isabella wiped grease from her hands and studied the holographic display hovering above her city. The alien vessel resembled a massive chrome cathedral, its surface rippling with energy fields that distorted the air around it. But something caught her trained eye. The way the ship's hull panels connected reminded her of the modular design of old shipping containers. Her team gathered quickly: Marcus, the wizard; Thompson, who could resurrect any dead machine; Kai Patel, former quantum computing engineer turned dumpster diving enthusiast; and Diana "Dynamo" Rodriguez, whose talent for improvised explosives had earned her both respect and restraining orders. "Look at their energy signature," Kai pointed to his jury-rigged scanner, cobbled together from microwave parts and old cell phones. "It's similar to our electromagnetic spectrum, just vastly more efficient." Isabella nodded, already formulating a plan. "They might be advanced, but they're still bound by the same laws of physics. Marcus, remember that particle accelerator experiment that nearly vaporized your workshop?" Marcus grinned, his silver-streaked dreadlocks catching the sunset. "The one that turned my quantum stabilizer into a very expensive paperweight? How could I forget? What if we scaled it up? Way up?" Isabella gestured to the acres of scrap metal and discarded machinery surrounding them. "Everything we need is right here." Diana was already calculating explosive yields on her tablet, which was protected by a case made from old Nokia phones, practically indestructible. "If we can disrupt their shield harmonics, even for a few seconds." The team worked through the night, their salvage yard transforming into a makeshift weapons factory. Old satellite dishes became energy-focusing arrays. Discarded transformers were rewired into power amplifiers. A mountain of crushed cars was melted down and reforged into a massive antenna array. The Zenith Collective didn't expect resistance, especially not from a location their scans dismissed as primitive waste storage. Their first warning came when Isabella's particle beam, powered by 100 salvaged car batteries and guided by reprogrammed GPS units, punched through their flagship's supposedly impenetrable shields. The alien response was immediate and fierce. Plasma bolts rained from the sky, but Isabella's team had prepared. Force field generators, reverse-engineered from old microwave emitters and powered by a small nuclear reactor they'd rebuilt from spare parts, sprang to life. "They're adapting." Kai shouted over the explosions, his fingers flying over a keyboard salvaged from a 1990s computer. "Shield frequencies are shifting." Isabella watched as sections of their force field flickered. The aliens were learning, but so were they. "Marcus, initiate protocol chaos." Marcus flipped a series of switches on what looked like a wall of old circuit breakers. Across the salvage yard, hundreds of devices activated simultaneously. Old radio towers began broadcasting on random frequencies. Discarded Wi-Fi routers pumped out conflicting signals. Even the ancient Christmas lights strung around the office began pulsing with electromagnetic interference. The alien ship sensors, overwhelmed by the cacophony of contradictory data, began to falter. Their precise formation wavered as targeting systems struggled to compensate. "It's working," Diana called out, monitoring the enemy ships through a telescope made from scrap optics and mounted on a gimbal crafted from washing machine parts. "Their formations are breaking up." Isabella allowed herself a small smile. The salvage yard, her life's work, had become humanity's first successful defense against an alien invasion. But this was just the beginning. As she watched more alien ships appear on the horizon, she knew the real battle was just starting. "Ready the next phase," she ordered, patting the modified aircraft engine that hummed beside her. "Let's show these aliens why you should never underestimate human ingenuity, or our trash." The Zenith Collective's response to their first defeat came at dawn. Their ships assembled in a new formation, one that Isabella's team hadn't seen before, a massive spiral pattern that turned the sky into a twisted metallic galaxy. "Energy readings are off the charts," Kai announced from his monitoring station, a collection of old smartphones wired together into a makeshift supercomputer. "They're charging something big." A beam of pure energy, bright enough to turn night into day, lanced down from the alien armada. It struck Isabella's salvage yard's shield network, and simply disappeared. For a moment, everything went quiet. Marcus burst out laughing at his console, tears streaming down his face. It worked. The quantum absorption matrix actually worked. The matrix, built from thousands of old solar panels and modified with experimental quantum circuitry, hadn't just blocked the alien weapon, it had captured the energy. Meters across their improvised command center redlined as power surged through their systems. "Rerouting power to the Tesla cannon," Diana shouted, her hands dancing across a control panel built from old arcade machine parts. The massive weapon, constructed from salvaged power line transformers and what used to be a grain silo, hummed to life. Isabella grabbed the radio. "All teams, initiate Operation Junkyard Storm. This is not a drill." Across the sprawling salvage yard, dozens of hidden weapons platforms emerged from piles of rusted cars and mountains of scrap metal. Old construction cranes, retrofitted with electromagnetic pulse generators, swung into position. Buried shipping containers opened to reveal missile batteries crafted from pressure-treated propane tanks and guided by reprogrammed drone parts. The Zenith Collective's command voice boomed across the sky, but this time it carried a note of uncertainty. "Your resistance is unprecedented. Explain your defense capabilities." "You want an explanation?" Isabella muttered, typing final launch codes into a keyboard salvaged from an old nuclear power plant. "Here's your explanation." The salvage yard erupted. The Tesla cannon fired first, a concentrated beam of the aliens' own energy turned against them. It struck the flagship's propulsion system, sending the massive vessel listing to one side. Before they could recover, Diana's missile batteries launched their payloads. The aliens' point defense systems easily shot down the first wave of missiles, just as expected. What they didn't expect was for the destroyed missiles to burst into clouds of suspended metallic particles, millions of microscopic pieces of specially treated scrap metal. "Nanite cloud deployed," Kai confirmed, monitoring the spread through a collection of modified weather radar displays. "Beginning electromagnetic pulse sequence." Marcus activated the crane network. Each crane fired a concentrated EMP burst into the metallic clouds. The particles, treated with quantum resonance compounds recovered from discarded experimental laboratory equipment, amplified the pulses into a devastating electromagnetic storm. Alien ships began dropping from the sky, their sophisticated systems overwhelmed by the jury-rigged attack. Some managed to maintain altitude but flew erratically, their navigation systems corrupted by the storm of energized particles. The collective's response was brutal. Their remaining ships launched everything they had: plasma torpedoes, antimatter missiles, and beams of coherent light that cut through the air like solid objects. "Shields holding at 60%, Diana reported, rerouting power through their backup systems, a massive bank of capacitors built from old electric car batteries. But we can't take much more of this." Isabella watched as sections of her salvage yard erupted in flames. Years of collected treasures, future projects, and valuable scrap were being reduced to molten slag. But she smiled, because that was exactly what she'd planned for. "Activate the slag golems," she ordered. The molten metal began to move, flowing together into massive humanoid forms. Each golem stood 3 stories tall, their bodies kept molten by salvaged industrial heaters and given form by magnetic containment fields generated by modified MRI machines. They began advancing on the landed alien ships, their footsteps leaving pools of cooling metal. Impossible. The alien commander's voice had lost all pretense of superiority. Your civilization lacks the technology for autonomous plasma containment. We didn't need it, Isabella responded, patching into their communication frequency. Sometimes the old ways work best. Those containment fields? Built from old magnetic tape readers and powered by steam engines. The control systems? Mechanical computers, like the ones used in World War II. No fancy electronics for you to disable. The golems reached the grounded alien ships and began to simply melt through their hulls, their molten bodies ignoring energy shields designed to stop solid objects and directed energy weapons. Inside their ships, the aliens faced an enemy they couldn't compute, human ingenuity backed by generations of discarded technology. The Zenith Collective's retreat was temporary. 3 days after the Slag Golem attack, their ships returned with reinforcements and new defenses against Earth's improvised weapons. But Isabella and her team hadn't been idle. They've adapted to our electromagnetic attacks, Kai reported, monitoring signals through a wall of vintage oscilloscopes. Their new shielding technology operates on principles we haven't seen before. Isabella studied the holographic display, now upgraded with parts salvaged from the downed alien ships. Then we'll have to get creative. Marcus, how's Project Babel coming along? Marcus emerged from his workshop, covered in silicon dust and clutching what looked like a circuit board made from old washing machine timers. It's ready. But Isabella, this is crazy even by our standards. The plan was audacious. During the last battle, they'd captured fragments of alien communication technology. By reverse engineering it using Earth's primitive electronics, they discovered something fascinating: the aliens' highly advanced systems were vulnerable to the digital equivalent of primitive viruses. Diana had already positioned their new weapons, hundreds of modified CB radios and ham radio sets, each broadcasting on frequencies that would seem like meaningless noise to modern Earth equipment. But to the aliens' quantum communication networks, they were digital poison. Begin transmission, Isabella ordered. The air filled with a cacophony of signals. Old television antennas, repurposed satellite dishes, and even modified Tesla coils began pumping out waves of corrupted data. The alien fleet's perfect formation wavered as their ship systems tried to process the flood of contradictory information. Their neural networks are attempting to adapt, Kai announced, watching the data streams. But they can't handle the illogical patterns. It's like trying to teach quantum physics to a calculator from the 1980s, in reverse. The aliens' response was swift but confused. Some ships fired at random, their targeting systems compromised. Others began broadcasting their own signals, trying to drown out the interference. That's when Phase 2 began. Hidden beneath mountains of scrap, Isabella's secret weapon activated. Decades worth of discarded computer hardware, everything from ancient mainframes to obsolete smartphones, had been networked together into a massive distributed computing system. Each piece ran a fragment of code that, by itself, was harmless. But together, they created a symphony of digital chaos. They're launching boarding parties, Diana warned, watching through cameras hidden in piles of rusty machinery. Looks like they're done trying to blast us from orbit. Isabella smiled. Perfect. Activate the Labyrinth Protocol. The salvage yard transformed. What had appeared to be random piles of junk shifted and moved, revealing an intricate maze of corridors and dead ends. Automated systems, powered by everything from solar cells to pedal-driven generators, came to life. The alien boarding parties found themselves in a nightmare of Earth's discarded technology. Robot sentries, built from old assembly line parts, emerged from their hiding spots. Security systems cobbled together from discarded surveillance equipment tracked every alien movement. Even the ground beneath their feet became a weapon, as pressure plates made from old bathroom scales triggered traps built from car parts and industrial equipment. Multiple breaches in Sectors 3 and 4, Kai reported, but his voice was calm. Initiating containment procedures. The containment procedures were Marcus's masterpiece. Each sector of the yard could be isolated by walls of hardened steel, salvaged from abandoned bank vaults and nuclear bunkers. But these weren't simple barriers, they were delivery systems for Isabella's latest weapon. "Release the nanites," she ordered. From hidden vents, clouds of microscopic machines filled the sealed sectors. These weren't the sophisticated nanobots of science fiction, they were crude, mechanical devices, each no more complex than a watch gear. Built by the millions in repurposed 3D printers, they responded to simple electromagnetic signals, swarming together to form basic tools or weapons. The aliens, expecting to face primitive resistance, found their advanced armor being dismantled bolt by bolt. Their energy weapons, designed to punch through force fields, proved useless against swarms of tiny mechanical attackers that could rebuild themselves from their own scattered parts. "Enemy forces are retreating to their ships," Diana announced. "But we've got a problem. They're adapting faster than expected. The flagship is beginning to broadcast some kind of suppression field." Isabella watched as their nanite swarms began to falter, their simple mechanical brains confused by the alien countermeasures. But she'd anticipated this. In the salvage yard's deepest bunker, built inside an old nuclear shelter, her ultimate weapon was nearly ready. "How long until the resurrection engine is online?" she asked Marcus. He checked readings on a monitor built from old aircraft instruments. 10 minutes. Maybe less. "But Isabella, are you sure about this? Using archaeological technology against their quantum systems, it's like fighting a laser with a stone axe." "Sometimes," Isabella replied, watching as more alien ships descended through the clouds, "the oldest weapons are the most effective. Especially when your enemy doesn't even recognize them as weapons." The resurrection engine hummed to life deep beneath the salvage yard, its core built from something far older than the surrounding scrap metal, artifacts discovered in an ancient archaeological dig, their true purpose unknown until Isabella connected them to her makeshift power grid. "Power levels at 90%, Marcus announced, his voice echoing through the bunker. "But the radiation signatures are strange. It's like the machine is breathing." The artifacts, arranged in a spiral pattern, pulsed with an inner light that seemed to absorb the shadows around them. Each piece was covered in markings that defied translation, yet somehow interfaced perfectly with the salvaged technology surrounding them. Above ground, the situation had become desperate. The Zenith Collective had deployed their elite forces, towering mechanized units that shrugged off conventional attacks. Their suppression field had evolved, not just disrupting the nanite swarms but beginning to interfere with Earth's electrical grid. "Main power failing," Kai reported, switching to backup systems. "The aliens are using some kind of quantum dampening field. Our technology is being reduced to its most basic state." Isabella smiled. "Perfect. That's exactly what we needed." The resurrection engine wasn't fighting against the alien suppression field, it was synchronizing with it. As Earth's modern technology failed, the ancient artifacts began to glow brighter. They were drawing power from the very field meant to disable them. "All teams, fall back to secondary positions," Isabella ordered through the old pneumatic tube communication system they'd installed as a backup. "Prepare for protocol genesis." The alien forces, sensing victory, pressed their advantage. Their mechanized units breached the outer perimeter, crushing piles of scrap metal beneath their feet. Their sensors, calibrated to detect and counter advanced technology, completely missed the network of copper wires and crude mechanical switches spreading through the yard. "Enemy units in position," Diana confirmed through a speaking tube. "They're right on top of the conductor grid." Isabella took a deep breath. "Marcus, initiate the sequence." The resurrection engine's hum changed pitch, becoming something felt rather than heard. The ancient artifacts began to rotate, their mysterious symbols leaving trails of light in the air. Above ground, the copper grid sparked to life. The alien suppression field, designed to reduce technology to its simplest form, amplified the effect beyond anything Isabella had hoped for. The electromagnetic pulses generated by the resurrection engine were transformed into waves of pure energy that rippled through reality itself. The elite alien units froze mid-stride. Their quantum-based systems, reduced to their most fundamental state, became vulnerable to the ancient technology's influence. The resurrection engine wasn't just disrupting their technology, it was rewriting the basic principles they operated on. "It's working!" Kai shouted, watching through cameras powered by primitive chemical batteries. "Their units are transforming." The alien machines began to change. Complex quantum circuits reverted to simple electronic pathways. Advanced AI systems degraded into basic mechanical computers. Their sleek alien alloys transmuted into familiar Earth metals. "This is impossible." The alien commander's voice crackled through their speakers. "You're using technology that predates your own civilization." "Exactly," Isabella replied. "We found these artifacts buried beneath the Earth, left by someone who came before us. We couldn't understand them until you showed up with your quantum technology. Sometimes the best way to fight the future is with the past." The transformed alien units stood motionless, now more akin to ancient clockwork automatons than advanced combat machines. But the resurrection engine wasn't finished. The artifact's glow intensified, and waves of energy began reaching higher into the atmosphere. "Isabella," Marcus called out, his voice urgent. "The engine's power levels are still climbing. The artifacts are drawing energy directly from the alien fleet now. I don't think we can control what happens next." She watched as the sky above the salvage yard began to ripple like heat waves over hot asphalt. The alien ships closest to the effect began to change, their hulls transforming into simpler materials, their quantum cores reverting to more primitive states. "All forces, prepare for final phase," Isabella ordered. "Whatever happens next, remember, sometimes the oldest technologies are the most powerful. Not because they're advanced, but because they tap into something fundamental about the universe itself." The resurrection engine's power reached its peak as dawn broke over the salvage yard. The ancient artifacts had transformed into pure light, their mysterious symbols floating in the air like constellations. The Zenith Collective's mighty fleet hung motionless above, caught in the engine's expanding field of influence. "Final power threshold reached," Marcus announced, his instruments showing readings that defied conventional physics. "The artifacts are resonating with something in deep space." The alien commander's voice echoed one last time across their communication system, but now it carried a note of recognition rather than contempt. "The builders, you've awakened their legacy." The transformation accelerated. Alien ships began descending, not under their own power but drawn down by the engine's influence. As they touched Earth, their advanced materials reverted to basic elements. Quantum computers became mechanical calculators. Artificial intelligence systems simplified into basic automation. "They're not being destroyed," Kai realized, studying the readings. "The engine is translating them. Converting their technology into forms we can understand and use." Diana's voice crackled through the pneumatic tubes. "Multiple alien crews abandoning ships. They're surrendering." The Zenith Collective's forces, their superior technology reduced to mechanical equivalents, found themselves stranded on a planet they dismissed as primitive. But what truly shocked them was discovering that humans could operate and maintain their simplified systems with ease. "Your civilization," the alien commander addressed Isabella directly, "it was never about the level of technology. It was about understanding the principles behind it." Isabella nodded, watching as her team began salvaging components from the transformed alien vessels. We learned to make do with what we had. To see the potential in what others discarded. The artifacts didn't give us advanced technology, they showed us how to bridge the gap between the simple and the complex. The resurrection engine's light began to fade, its work complete. The artifacts cooled, becoming simple metallic shapes once more. But they had permanently altered the balance of power. The Zenith Collective's invasion force, stripped of its technological advantage, faced a humanity that had proven far more resourceful than expected. What happens now? Marcus asked, powering down the engine's support systems. Now, Isabella replied, picking up a transformed piece of alien technology that had become something akin to an ancient mechanical computer, we learn. We adapt. We build something new from what was left behind. The salvage yard, scattered with the remnants of both human and alien technology, had become a testament to human ingenuity. The Zenith Collective survivors, their arrogance stripped away with their advanced technology, began to see Earth's primitive solutions in a new light. Your waste, the alien commander observed, watching humans already beginning to repurpose their simplified ships, it was never truly waste. It was a library of solutions, waiting to be rediscovered. As the sun rose fully over the transformed battlefield, Isabella surveyed her yard. The piles of scrap metal, old machines, and discarded technology had saved humanity not through advanced capabilities, but by demonstrating a fundamental truth: true innovation comes not from the complexity of your tools, but from how you use what you have. Welcome to Earth, she told the surrendered alien forces. Let me show you how much you can do with a little imagination and a lot of spare parts. The resurrection engine, now dormant, stood as a bridge between past and future, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful solutions are the ones that have been waiting to be rediscovered. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon hadn't been advanced technology or superior firepower, but the ability to see possibility in the abandoned, hope in the discarded, and strength in the simplest of solutions.